There are very few countries in the world that have such a close relationship as Canada and the United States of America. Canada and the US share the longest international border in the world, but the close relationship is based on far more than geography. Trade, tourism, the arts, military alliances, environmental interests, and so much more have helped form a deep and meaningful relationship. Just recently, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada said, "The relationship between Canada and the United States serves as a model for the world. Our shared values, deep cultural ties, and strong integrated economies will continue to provide the basis for advancing our strong and prosperous partnership." Similarly, the recent President of the United States, Barack Obama, said, "As neighbors, we are so closely linked that sometimes we may have a tendency to take our relationship for granted. But the very success of our friendship throughout history demands that we renew and deepen our cooperation here in the 21st century. We are joined together by the world's largest trading relationship that keep our borders open and secure. We share core democratic values and a commitment to work on behalf of peace, prosperity, and human rights around the world," he said on a working visit to Ottawa on the 19th of February in 2009. This video will further explore just what makes these two countries so close. On September 11th, 2001, two planes struck the World Trade Centers in the attacks that would come to be known as 9/11. After the attacks on the World Trade Centers, all aircraft headed to the US were either sent back to the airport they came from, or if they did not have enough fuel for that, were sent to Canada. 224 flights with over 33,000 people landed in Canada. There are many stories of Canadian communities welcoming the people with open arms. A quote from Alan Flood says, "We were strangers. They didn't know what we were like. They took us to their homes, made sure we wanted for nothing, treated us as part of the family." One community was so generous to the visitors, the visitors raised $1.5 million for scholarships for kids in the area. This story was told in the popular Canadian musical Come From Away. The United States and Canada have a very good trade relationship. In 2019, the U.S. exported $292.7 billion worth of goods to Canada, making up 18% of the total U.S. exports in 2019. Some of the biggest exports from the U.S. were vehicles with $52 billion, machinery with $45 billion, electrical machinery with $25 billion, mineral fuels with $25 billion, and plastics with $13 billion. The U.S. also exported about $67.7 billion of services to Canada. Canada exported even more goods to the U.S. in 2019, exporting $319.4 billion of goods to the U.S., being the third largest supplier of goods to the U.S. in 2019. The biggest exports from Canada to the U.S. in that year were mineral fuels with $86 billion, vehicles with $53 billion, machinery with $23 billion, and finally plastics with $11 billion. However, in 2020, trading between the two countries fell by $60 billion. During this time, COVID was seriously hurting trade around the world and had many countries focusing on vaccines and quarantine, hurting their economies. However, in 2021, trading again reached a record high with over with $379 billion of trading, one of the highest years of trading between the two countries. Canada and the US are strong allies in defense. They collaborate closely to address shared values around the world. Their shared objectives of global peace and security have led to them working together in several military organizations, such as the North American Aerospace Defense Command, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the Five Eyes. NORAD is a great example of collaboration between Canada and the US. NORAD, standing for North American Aerospace Defense Command, was founded as a joint organization between Canada and the US at the height of the Cold War. Canada and the US renewed the treaty in 2006, making NORAD a permanent organization. However, the treaty is subject to review every 4 years or at the request of either country. According to NORAD, NORAD provides aerospace defense through the detection, validation, and warning of attack against North America, whether by aircraft, missiles, or space vehicles. NORAD was founded at the height of Cold War tensions, and the US was worried about the Soviet Union using long range bombers and intercontinental ballistic missiles to launch nuclear warheads at the US. To prevent this, the US and Canadian Air Forces partnered to provide defense across the continent. Many tourists from America choose to go to Canada, with 14.4 million people from the US and Canada in 2018. These tourists normally spend about $700 per trip and stay 5 nights on average. Most come in the months July and August. Some of the most popular activities when they are there are nature-based, such as seeing natural attractions, visiting nature parks, hiking or walking in nature, and viewing wildlife. Over 20 million Canadians visit the United States annually. Many Canadians from the United States travel for work, but many more travel for tourism. The most popular destinations are Florida, New York, and California. American and Canadians do not need visas to fly to visit the other country, but they do need a passport. Citizens from both countries can fly or drive depending on their destination. Another example of just how close Canada and the US are is how much our arts overlap. As we share the same language, we share almost all of the same movies, TV shows, books, music, and theater. Much of the television and movies Canadians watch were created in the US, and a lot of the most popular music in Canada is performed by American artists. American musicians tour across Canada thrilling fans. Even plays focused on American history can become very popular in Canada. Canadians are also subjected to American news outlets such as Fox News and CNN, and often Canadians know more about American politics than they do about their own country. Likewise, many Canadian artists become extremely popular in the United States. Some of the most popular musicians in the US are in fact Canadians, with performers such as Drake and Justin Bieber dominating American airwaves. Occasionally, Canadian TV shows such as Schitt's Creek can become very popular in the US. Even plays developed by Canadians can become popular in the US, such as the previously mentioned Come From Away. In literature, authors enjoy success on both sides of the border. Some of the most popular writers in Canada are American and vice versa. Some Canadian authors, such as Margaret Atwood, have been extremely successful in the US. At times it is often hard to tell which artists are American and which are Canadian, and both countries benefit from sharing their best artists with each other. As shown throughout this video, the United States and Canada have a very close and a very positive relationship. Even though Canada and the US share the world's longest unprotected border, there's much more than geography that ties these two countries together. Extensive trade and tourism, close military cooperation, and shared arts make the two countries closely linked. In 1939, Winston Churchill, describing the 5,000-mile peaceful border dividing Canada and the United States, said, "That long frontier, from the Atlantic to the Pacific Oceans, guarded only by neighborly respect and honorable obligations, is an example to every country and a pattern for the future of the world."